Here it is, challenge number 1, based on the work of street artist Thank You X and his amazing cube designed mural. So gather your materials, your envelope that I sent home with your elements of art and principles of design handout and your cube template. In addition to that, you'll need a pencil, a Sharpie, or any kind of a black pen. Permanent is best. Colored markers. Now, the design that we're going to be working on is to illustrate the elements of art, one on one side and a different element on the other side. So look over your elements. Then we'll also use the principles of design to help guide how you organize the elements. Think of the elements as the ingredients of art and the principles as the recipe on how to put them together. So let's start with line. You can start with any of the elements, but I'm going to start with line. Now you may want to just do something really simple. Oh, line, I'll just draw a bunch of lines. But that's kind of elementary. Let's go a little bit above that since we're in middle school. What I like to do is start with some idea sketches. So on the back of your principles and design sheet, you can do some light pencil sketches, kind of plan out some ideas that you might want to use on your first side of your cube. So I'm doing a variety of lines. I'm trying to have contrast. So now once I'm pleased with what I'm going to do, I have my plan. I'm going to draw very lightly with your pencil. Lighter lines can really be erased more easily. If you press too hard, it pushes the graphite right into the paper, and it's really hard to get those lines off that are not working. Now, as you work, list on the side of your cube on the outside, list the elements that you're using or the principles of design that you're using to help guide your decision making about what to put where. Now notice that I'm filling the entire space. There's nothing floating. The lines go edge to edge. So now as I'm looking at this, I'd like to have a contrast, an element of contrast. So next to all these lines, I think I'll add some shapes. This creates a pattern. Pattern is another principle of design by repeating the shapes. It also creates movement because our eyes, our brains like to connect similar things. So our eyes move through the design by following the dots or following the lines. So I can add movement to my list for that side. Once you have your pencil lines all in place and you're happy and it's making everything's working well, slowly and carefully go over your lines so that they'll really stand out from your background. Take your time and do a neat job. Craftsmanship is so important in art. You can have the best idea in the world, but if it's messy, the viewer sees the mess. Oops, look, I made a mistake. No problem. I like to think of mistakes as just opportunities for a rapid design change. How can I change it? How can I make it work? Well, what if I made that line thicker? It covers the mistake up right there. See it? The line that extended past my other line is hidden inside the thicker line. And in fact, that thicker line, I think, really helps. In fact, it's emphasized. So now I'm going to erase my pencil off. Craftsmanship, neatness counts, remember. You don't want to lose your idea in a big mess. Now that I'm looking at that line, I want to emphasize it even more. Emphasis means make something stand out. Draw the viewer's eye there. So I think I'm going to even exaggerate that a little bit more. And look, if I hadn't made that mistake, I never would have thought of this idea. So mistakes are actually really great things sometimes. So to balance it out, oh, there's another principle, balance. I'm going to make that line a little thicker also. So now the other side, I'm going to choose another element, maybe shape. Again, I'm going to start with a thumbnail sketch or an idea sketch. Since that side's very organic and flowy, I think I'll go with more of a geometric shape design for this side. So once again, I'm sketching it in with my pencil lightly so I can make changes if I need to. This is the planning step. It's Watch, see how I'm going edge to edge, no floating objects. I'm making my list of the objects or the elements that I'm using, the principles that I'm using. I'm going to add a shape right here to emphasize. Oh, I don't think that's working too well. I'm going to take that one off. Remember, emphasis is you're drawing the viewer's eye somewhere, making something different. Something different in a design will really attract a lot of attention. Here's another way to go. If you wanted to do a series of lines like this, I would recommend not doing them in pencil first. Make your list, of course, of what you're going to do. Here's change in value because I put the lines really close together. I'll show you how to do that. So instead of drawing it in pencil first and having to outline it, I'm just going to draw this line, let it just flow on this side of the cube, just with my marker, and I'd follow all the way down. Now to make a change in value means how light or dark something is, I'm going to place these lines really close together. And I added rhythm there. It is a very rhythmic line, flowing. And see how I placed them super close together so that area will appear a little bit darker. Now if I spread the lines back out, there's a lighter valued area. So I'd continue on down. On this side I'm working with shape. I'm going to use contrast with the darker lines, the thicker rectangular lines. There's small rectangular shapes. Now if you wanted to do something different, you could also follow a theme. I bet you can guess what the theme of this one is. Sure, sports. So here I've drawn a football, but not floating in the center. It extends past the edge. And I wasn't sure about the details of my football, so I did a little Google search for an image of a football just to have a reference to help me in my drawing. I do that a lot. I don't trace what I see, but I use it as a reference to get the details. I did the same thing for the baseball. Just looked up baseball images. Just to have something to draw from. Here, I'm making my list. I've got shapes. I have line. I've repeated the baseballs to create a pattern. Right, done here. Getting all the pencil off. I don't want any of that yucky pencil to show when I'm done. Now, color choices. Sure, footballs are brown, but we don't have to use this realistic color. We're artists. We use color because it works, not because it necessarily is reflective of the real object. So, did that side violet. Now I'd like to have a little contrast on the other side. So what I like to do is I like to test out the colors next to each other, and anything outside the cube. Have a little tester area. Those two colors I think they're too much the same. There's not enough contrast there to really make the others pop. But look what happens when I put the lime green next to the violet. That works much better, I think. But let's try some yellow. Yeah, yellow works pretty well. But I think the lime green really works for me. So I'm going to outline first, like Mr. House always says. So after filling in the football side, I'm working on the baseball side now. Has this ever happened to you? You rub over the marker and it gets all over your hands and it smears in the background and it just makes a big old mess. That's because you have moisture in your hand, and the moisture on the watercolor markers just turns it back into liquid. So you want to make sure that area is dry. One thing I like to do is put an extra sheet on top of where I've already added the color, and that'll keep that from happening. It'll keep your paper much cleaner, and you won't get smeared marker on your hands.